Good Saturday to you. I'm 10 Tampa Bay meteorologist Natalie Ferrari. We're joining you on 10 Tampa Bay Plus, our YouTube channel, as well as on all our social media platforms to bring you the latest on what is now Tropical Storm Debby. Your eyes aren't playing any tricks on you. It officially did strengthen from a tropical depression to a tropical storm just minutes ago. This is the latest update just in from the National Hurricane Center as of 5 p.m. There it is, Debby continuing not only to move well off the coast, the northwest coast of Cuba tonight, but it is already made its way into the southeastern Gulf of Mexico. We had been mentioning the moment this happens, it is then into some prime conditions for further development, and that is where we are at this point. It officially has that tropical storm classification because not only do we have those tropical characteristics, we have a closed low. We also have winds that have officially made it to 40 miles per hour. Those maximum sustained winds, especially close to the center, are reaching that point. So that is where we are dealing with a strengthening system that is now pulling to the northwest, and it is forecast to pull more so towards the north as we go through tonight and into the overnight hours. First, I want to show you some of the outer flow that we've been dealing with. You've probably already noticed there have been some passing showers and then some gusts of wind that move through, and then everything quiets down. We've seen that for the past few hours. At this point, we actually have another one that's been moving up from the south to the north across portions of Sarasota, Manatee, Hardee, DeSoto counties, and even into the southern portions of Highlands tonight. That next band is what's going to make its way towards the north and to the northwest as we go through the next hour. And you'll see how these showers, they don't stick around very long. They bring a lot of heavy rainfall, and then they move up to the north rather quickly. Ahead of it, though, it does have some gusty winds, so you'll really notice those winds pick up in excess of 30 to 45 miles per hour at times. But this is still just the energy, the outer flow of Debby that is just grabbing into the moisture we have in the atmosphere, very tropical moisture, and throwing it our direction. So this is just kind of the very, very beginning stages of this tropical storm, bringing us that rain chance. Now, the latest track continues to have it farther to the west of us. So this is why it does now have the potential to become a stronger system. We had been mentioning the eastern Gulf of Mexico. Not only is it incredibly warm and incredibly conducive for tropical development, but it has a very shallow continental shelf. So that gives water temperatures, especially sea surface temperatures, the ability to warm up quicker and then stay warmer for a longer period of time, which adds fuel to any type of tropical system. So that is why it is forecast through tonight and into the good chunk of tomorrow to become a stronger tropical storm. The latest update just in from our 5 p.m. update from the National Hurricane Center is that as it gets ready to make landfall, possibly somewhere in the Big Bend region or the eastern panhandle closer to the Big Bend, we are looking at briefly making it potentially now to a Category 1 hurricane with maximum sustained wind speeds at 75 miles per hour. So far, that is our strongest forecast that we've seen come in from the National Hurricane Center. At 74 miles per hour, that is what officially allows it to cross the threshold from a tropical storm to a hurricane. So it is still going to be a low-end hurricane, but whether you're talking about a strong tropical storm or a low-end Cat 1, the impacts will still be the same, and the impacts will still grow far and wide from outside of this cone you see here. So a lot of times we see the cone and we just think that's the only where impacts will be felt. That is not the case, and that is why we do have this blue marker all up and down the west coast of Florida. This includes the Tampa Bay region. That is indicating tropical storm warnings. That is because conditions are likely to not only bring those tropical storm force winds, but we have already been seeing them over the past couple of hours with those bands of heavy rainfall bringing not only gusty showers, but gusty winds in excess of 40 miles per hour at times. And I wanted to show you the latest spaghetti plots because you'll notice the cone has been getting more and more narrow. So there is a whole lot of agreement that this center will be staying to the west of Tampa Bay. That is good news in the sense that we're not going to get those immediate tropical storm force winds smack dab right on top of us. However, it is still close enough to where those gusty winds wrapping around, the rain bands wrapping around the center and how they extend up along the coast, they are going to dump a lot of rainfall over and over and over, and embedded within that has been very, very gusty, strong winds that will increase through a good chunk of Sunday. So conditions do deteriorate overnight tonight, really through a good chunk of your Sunday. Sunday is definitely going to be the day that is going to be a complete wash because of this system. I mentioned the tropical storm warnings. Just wanted to show you how they really do encompass much of not only, of course, the Tampa Bay region, but all the way up from our north to our southern counties. This red you see here is brand new. This is encompassing just north of Cedar Key through Horseshoe Beach, Cross City. This is actually a hurricane warning because it is now forecast to make it to a hurricane status by Monday morning. That allows them to go ahead and issue that hurricane warning for those hurricane force conditions that will be likely, especially with those winds. Another update that did come in, the storm surge concern through portions of the Nature Coast, through portions even of the Big Bend region. So I do think just again north of Cedar Key, south of Cross City, this is where we're going to kind of see a lot of that highest surge possible, 4 to 7 feet. I'm talking mostly about the Big Bend because this is really where we're forecast to potentially see the eye make landfall by the time we get to Monday morning. Back down towards the Nature Coast, you did come up ever so slightly. It was 2 to 4 feet. Now we're looking at more so that 3 to 5 foot realm. So if you do know you're some areas that that have flooded in the past, especially from surge right along the coast, especially along Citrus County, you're going to want to be mindful of that because that could be on the higher end of that 5 foot concern that we would see with that water washing up on shore. And then from Pasco down south, just south there of Port Charlotte, that is where we have that 2 to 4 foot realm. That has actually remained unchanged. So for Tampa Bay, the storm surge concern has not changed one bit. We'll still have to, again, keep a very close eye on our coastal regions when it comes to that 2 to 4 realm. But for the immediate Tampa Bay waters, that is where we are still positioned when it comes to surge. So with the center being, again, more so to the west, that takes a lot of the strongest hurricane or rather tropical storm force winds, keeps them to the west. And when it's up to the northeast, it'll be hurricane force. But it keeps them a lot of those strongest winds over the water. But because that water has to go somewhere and over the Gulf, it is being thrust right back on shore. That will allow for that storm surge concern to really continue to stick around through this entire weekend. I want to show you our in-house model because you'll see how we've had, again, a few of those bands push through already this afternoon. Even through tonight, we stay mostly cloudy. We even quiet down for a bit, but I do think as we go through tomorrow morning, especially with the center being well off to the west, this model kind of brings it just ever so slightly a little closer, but I wanted to still paint that picture for you how on the right side we do have these bands of heavy rainfall that will just be wrapping around the center. And this model in particular is favoring a landfall around Horseshoe Beach near the Big Bend region, just south of Cross City and north of Cedar Key. This will change because, again, we've shown you that cone. That's where the center could go. It could go a little bit more so to the west there, closer to maybe just southeast of Tallahassee, or it could go a little farther down to the south. So we'll have to see how much that could wiggle, but it is favoring the northeastern Gulf Coast as we go through early. We're talking early on Monday morning, pulling up with it, and we won't be done with the impacts here locally even after it makes landfall. We're still going to be getting a lot of that rain wrapping up along the backside and on the south side of the system all the way through Monday and even going into Tuesday. Of course, the wind concern will drop greatly, but we will have a good amount of just showers still holding on tightly. So when it comes to the most likely arrival time of those tropical storm force winds, because that would be something that we're more concerned about here along the immediate coast for Tampa Bay, the earliest arrival has been pushing more so not only to Sunday morning, but now maybe possibly even to Sunday evening, but it's much of a lower potential now for Tampa Bay because of the fact that the center is going to be staying well offshore. This is now going to be a primary concern for those strongest winds up to parts of maybe even not only the Big Bend, Horseshoe Beach, but even Tallahassee has a better potential to see both tropical storm force winds and even some of those outer hurricane force winds at times going into Monday morning. And the big picture for us here at home, we are still going to get a good amount of these dirty rain bands. It's the dirty side of the storm, which is a really a fancy way of us telling you that not only the heaviest rain bands like to favor the right side of the storm, but the tornado threat, the potential that we could see a spin up or two, it's something we're watching out for. I think the major concern for us will be rounds of heavy rainfall from time to time. 4 to 8 inches was our original forecast. There are going to be some areas that pick up even more than that because of the fact we're going to see some of these showers training over the same region over and over. So let me show you through again tonight into tomorrow morning. See how there's a good amount of breaks in the rain. So it's not going to be raining nonstop through tonight. We'll notice again some of those bands coming through and it getting heavy at times, but I do think it's going to be after sunrise through about lunchtime. We'll get some of those initial real torrential downpours to hug the coastline. Then they'll expand out into our inland locations and up to the north and to the northeast. And we'll kind of notice that trend over and over throughout the day on Sunday. A complete wash. And in some of these embedded storms could be a spin up or two that we'll have to watch out for, which it could be a very brief isolated tornado. This is why we actually had to up some of those rain chances, because of the fact that we could be seeing a lot of heavy rainfall hug the coastline. And that's also where we're going to have the highest wind impact, with those winds ranging anywhere from 40 to 60 miles per hour at times. Rainfall totals, we did have to bump them up along the coast, possibly anywhere from 6 to 12 inches when all is said and done. But as I mentioned before, the storm surge threat for the Nature Coast, it's hugging closer to about from 2 to 4 to now 3 to 5 foot storm surge that we'll have to watch out for. For Pinellas and Hillsborough, the immediate Tampa Bay waters, I'm keeping it at 2 to 4 foot storm surge, so that has remained unchanged. But for rain, 6 to 10 inches, isolated spots could see higher amounts. So if you were in a flood prone region, if a typical summertime thunderstorm can flood your streets, this could be something that would be problematic, especially if you're talking about almost half a foot of rain within a 24-hour window. Down towards our southern counties, that's where we're seeing, again, those still very heavy rain bands moving through 48 inches with localized spots seeing maybe even a little bit higher than that when it comes to actual rainfall. But storm surge, that has remained unchanged for you. 2 to 4 foot storm surge will be possible along parts of Manatee and coastal Sarasota counties. When it comes to also our inland locations, that's probably going to be where we see the lowest wind threat. You are still going to get some very gusty winds in excess of 35 miles per hour at times, but we're going to keep it right around that 3 to 6 inches of rainfall for you. And that's going to be because of those showers that are going to hug the coastline, and kind of what is left over moving inland is what's going to be impacting you, especially as we go through a good chunk of your Sunday. And with this slightly slower system that again allows it to strengthen in the eastern Gulf of Mexico, it also allows it to bring those impacts a little bit longer. So that is why we have issued a weather impact alert day, obviously for Sunday, but we had to extend it into Monday because I think we're still going to have lingering impacts here in the Tampa Bay region from this now tropical storm. We'll be here all day long giving you these latest updates on 10 Tampa Bay Plus. Be sure to also join us on 10 Tampa Bay at 6, and again tonight for a special newscast at 10 o'clock.